Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, in my last video I talked about or showed you this lock that had security pins in it. And the advantage to a security pin is it prevents you from opening locks with something like this quickly. You can still break into a false set and then pick it with this pick, but it's usually not as easy to open as any of these. Now, this is what a lot of times you're going to encounter in commercial settings, or a lot of places will be master locks. And they did a very good advertising campaign where, you know, it's just tough under fire, and they made it to where, you know, most people think, you know, if you want a really good lock, then you should get a master lock. Well, the problem is it's with the core. It's what's inside here. There are no security pins in there, and there are also only 4 pins. So even though, yeah, it'll resist a bullet being shot at it, and you can't really shim them because of the way this, you know, sharp lip is down here, but they're so easy to pick, and they're so easy to rake. Now, what this is called is a snake rake. We call it a snake rake because of the shape. And what you're doing is, this is the practice setting. 1 is in 15,000s and 23,000s. For master locks, we can use the 23,000s, but that's just the thickness of this stuff. So these locks get heavy if you do it like this and everything. But, you know, I sometimes you'll see this in a lock, you know, in a situation on a chain where multiple people are trying to use the same thing. So they'll put a bunch of locks daisy chained like this on there. Well, of course, you know, again, that's where the old saying goes, you know, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And what I'm going to try right here is a 23,000ths. And I'm just trying to get this focus set up right here where you can see it, where I'm not bumping the camera. But what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm going back and forth on these pins. Wow, it didn't take much on that one. Sometimes it's not a lot of back and forth. This can be kind of noisy because of I didn't have a rubber mat down there. Let's see if we can get into this one. Yep. Excuse me. See, if it was daisy chain like that, like I said, if you couldn't get through the other ones, you could get through this one. And where did I get these commercial locks and everything? Well, it's from one of my jobs. Once they learned that I know how to pick locks and everything, let me just go to the other one for a second. I became the unofficial locksmith at night for anything that was locked that they didn't have a key to. Well, a lot of times they didn't have a key in the day or the night to some of these locks, and they just left them there. And whatever it was attached to, I picked it off of it, and they would let me have it. You know, if I picked a lock, if they were going to use it again, they would use it again. But I mean, they didn't have a key, and back then I didn't know how to make keys. You know, I just knew how to get into them. Both these guys are struggling. So if you struggle, you just go to another, you know, set here. Break away. Sometimes, you know, it's not as easy to do it through the camera because I got to make sure that you at least can see that I'm working on a lock. Let me get this guy all the way down here. The only difference between a commercial number 3 and a regular one, I don't know why this thing doesn't want to focus so well, is this over limit key thing right here, you know. Keep you from turning too far. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. It doesn't protect anything extra well. And if you get commercial padlocks or locks that have been out in the weather and everything, they're not as easy to pick. And so a lot of times it's better just to shoot some oil in them. I haven't done that on these. See, sometimes you get them real easy, and then other times, And I can single pin pick these guys pretty fast, but like I said, sometimes raking is much faster than just single pin picking. You can get in there and just, if you know what you're doing with tension, and you're hitting all the pins just right, you can simulate 4 pins pretty quick. But again, everything, it takes practice. Like I said, I haven't done this in a while, and I did try and see if I could open every one of these with just a snake rake before I did this video. I'm leaning on that, making everything bounce. Well, again, sometimes I have to back off, start over. But it's usually pretty quick. Let's get back to this guy. No, this guy's really easy to single pin pick. See, if I had my act together, if I had to practice a bunch of times before filming, but that's not the point. I'm not sitting here trying to say, ooh, look how fast I can do this. It's just that once you practice with these things, you don't even have to know how to single pin pick. You just have to develop a method, you know, how much tension you're applying to this, and then for 4 pins, basically, make sure you're hitting all of them. And then just go up and down and back and forth. I'm not even trying zipping, because you can do a lot of these. You can do zipping. I usually turn it upside down, go towards the excuse me, the back of the lock, and pull. And sometimes you can just zip them open like that. Sorry, I don't think this one's zippable. A lot of those other ones are, and that's as fast. You know, I mean, that's how quick you can get them open. But anyways, I'm trying to rake this last stubborn guy. And yeah, it's rough on the pins, and it's rough on the locks. So again, you know, that's why you only do locks that you own or have permission, you know, to pick. Just the code, the ethical code, and also usually the legal code. Like if it's your own property, you can do whatever you want with it. But if it's somebody else's property and you don't have permission, guess what? That's illegal, you know, and you get caught, boom. And keep up illegal activities long enough and you'll probably get caught. Well, I can't seem to get this guy, but I know it's possible. Sometimes that would happen. There would be two. There was one toolbox that this guy was always wanting to use. On day shift, he would lock it, and on night shift, people would come in, and they'd work on the same machines, and he'd lock things that you'd need to really work on that machine. It wasn't just like, and they're not his tools, they're company tools, you know? So I'd get in there, and I could pick one real quick. It was like one of these master commercials. They're both keyed alike. One would go real quick, and the other one, all right. I almost had it there. It's not binding the core, it's just me being stupid or not hitting it right, or maybe this thing needs some oil in the pins. It does feel pretty gritty in there. And I'm in an awkward position. I mean, that's another thing, you know, if you're ever working out in the field on stuff, you're going to be in an awkward position. Now, locksmiths, you know, most places, even commercial places, will just they'll just use bolt cutters. They'll just cut these bolt cutters or a cut-off die. Like I said, I learned a lot with Ratco. And this one's taking too long. So, alright, so because my hand is getting all red and I don't have anything on it and everything, I'm going to say this guy won. That guy won in that case. Let me see if I can single pin pick him here, or he's just going to humiliate me a little further. Sometimes you got to know when to give up or try something else. And I'd have tried something else a long time ago on that. I'd put like oil, you know, I'd have shot some oil in there, or question why I was doing this. Oh, it is gritty in there. And the pins are real easy to overset. Real gritty in there. No wonder it's not raking so well. It should. There we go. Took a while. Yeah, the pins are real gritty in the top, so when you're raking, you want it real smooth, you know, like piston engine, cutaway view of a piston engine, you know, 3D. Ding, 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 everything going smoothly. And when it's got crud in there and everything else, these pins will go up and stay up, or they're supposed to be set, you know, they aren't, or yeah, and they can present a problem. But there you go. Yeah, wasn't super fancy, super snazzy, but I got them all open. Maybe not with the snake. One way or another, I'll get them open usually. Because like I said, you can take the snake rake and you can turn it around, and you can use this guy right here, like the diamond part, as like a little pick. It's not as easy. Sometimes you can use a hook. Like I said, I think this is a Sparrow's one, but they both have the same shape. And a lot of times you're getting down here. I should have used that one. It's padded a little bit more. But like I said, usually you're not going to try to bust through that many locks at one time, unless you're doing a video. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.